Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fullest podcast. This is going to be a really interesting episode because I am actually interviewing my husband, Eric Bostwick. And I don't know if it's going to be much of an interview, but really just talking about our history. What do you think?
A conversation?
Yeah, a conversation. Thank you. So, yeah, we're just going to have a conversation really about our relationship and how we met and how we are where we're at now, which is in our 30s with a 2-year-old, married, and starting our own businesses or at the beginning of our businesses. So, I think it's really interesting. I've never done this, and I always just assume or don't think that it's that interesting. But a lot of people have told me that they'd love to listen to an episode like this, or they want to learn more about just how we became high school sweethearts and stuff like that. So we thought maybe we'd talk about it because it's not really a story that you hear that often anymore. And it's, I guess, an interesting one.
Yeah,
Right?
I think so.
It is? Okay. I
I
think
hope
so,
so.
maybe. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, so Eric and I met when I was 16 and he was 17, and we both grew up in Laguna Beach, California, and we met at Laguna Beach High School. It's probably smart, though, to kind of get into before we met, too. Laguna's a super small town, so you kind of know everyone. So I thought it was really interesting that I met someone that I didn't know. Obviously, it's not like you know the entire school, but for the most part, you've heard of people, you know each other. It's like a class of 200.
I always went to smaller private schools and went away my freshman year to boarding school up in Canada.
Why did you go to boarding school?
Uh, I probably was not good at a lot of things, and my parents were going through a divorce, and they wanted to. I don't know what they wanted to do. My perception is they wanted to send me off and not deal with me, and
But you weren't like a bad kid into drugs.
no,
It
no,
was like,
I wasn't good at school. I had a hard time focusing and I wasn't getting good grades, and my parents were going through their divorce, and so
you wanted to go, right?
it wasn't
Or
my idea, but I was able to choose the one I wanted to, and kind of wanted to get away from, all sorts of family dynamics and dealing with stuff with my sister, and so I went away, but I hated it. Looking back on it, I love it. It was a great experience, but I hated it at the time. And so I only was there 1 year. My freshman year, came back and came back to Laguna Beach High School.
yeah, and so it was well, we didn't meet until his senior year, but we'll
Going
get,
into going into my senior year.
yeah, so he came to high school so you came a sophomore year.
Sophomore year I
Yeah.
started at Laguna Beach.
So, okay, because we're talking about history, we should probably get into where we were at in our lives before we met, because I think that makes a huge difference into how that impacted our connection when we did meet. So, Eric mentioned his parents were going through a divorce. He was actually a lot younger. He was like 8 years old.
Yeah, through middle school,
Yeah.
I guess.
Through middle school, they
Middle
were going
school
through, and it was like a
high
really
school.
gnarly divorce. Super hard on the kids. And the family dynamic is really interesting because Eric has an older sister, and I have an older sister, and we both come from a family of 4, so just 2 siblings. And like Eric's older sister and my older sister are just very similar in the way that they treated us or just our relationships with them. So,
We understood each other on many fronts.
yeah, and then when we met, my parents have been wanting to go through a divorce since I was basically born. And it was like when I was 7 years old, they had told us we're going to get a divorce, but then they didn't. So it was on and off. And believe it or not, it's still going on in my 30s. They didn't totally separate until I was 15, like 15, 16, right when I met Eric. My parents were separating. And so it was a really hard time for me. And he had just like kind of finished that period in his life where things were like starting to stabilize for him and his family. His dad was married finally to a wonderful woman, and she ended up like really making a big difference in my life. And so it was like the perfect time, I guess, that we had met, and we just kind of connected and we understood each other, like Eric said, and he really helped me go through it, because at the same time, I felt like I was taking things out on myself, and I was not doing well in school. I was experimenting with drugs a little bit. Not a lot, not where it like really affected me in any way, but it was definitely an experimentation that could have gone down the wrong road. And I was also bulimic. So I was like going through a really hard time, but I was also like really into spirituality. So I was going to yoga, and I had this like wellness side of me that always was really strong. So I felt like when I met Eric, he helped me heal so many things without even knowing it, because he helped me like remember to love myself. And I think that's really what this episode is about how love is so strong, and how powerful it is, and how it can help you overcome so much. Because I think that it also applies to like animals too. And so we'll kind of get into like how we rescued our dog, and how I felt like when we rescued our dog, everything started to make sense. But anyways, Eric and I ended up meeting when I was 16, he was 17. And we accidentally started dating because Eric asked me to be his girlfriend. And oh no, he never asked me to be his girlfriend. You introduced me, right? You introduced me to someone.
Yeah,
He doesn't remember, but
Sounds
one
right.
day we were like going to a football, what are they called?
Football game.
Football games. One day we were going to a football game because that was a thing in high school, like Friday nights or whatever. And he introduced me to one of his friends as his girlfriend. And then I didn't correct him. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm his girlfriend. And that's how it started. But we had like a good year together before he moved away to college in Oregon. So are you open to talking about how in that year you kind of got off of your medication as well, and like kind of your experience with that? Because you went off and then went on, and then, yeah. So what was that like for you? Like, what was the transition of like going from like a stable situation finally to like going off to college, and how that affected you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had a hard time with it, and
Like, do you feel like you weren't ready, or?
no, I think I was ready. I've always had a hard time with academics, and I barely made it into college. Had a hard time through college with my grades, and probably had too much fun instead of focusing on what I should have been focusing on. And also, I don't really remember. I guess that's when I.
No, you went on. Well, when I met you, you were on medication. You were on
I've been on
antidepressants.
antidepressants my whole life.
Yeah.
Not anymore, but I had been as a kid. And
When did it start? When your parents were separating, or
no, I think before that,
like when you were 8?
probably, yeah.
I never even knew that.
Yeah.
And were you on it consistently?
Not necessarily consistently, but different medications at different times, and it was kind of like my retainer. I never wore it, so I would
Which
wear
is
it.
dangerous.
I'd wear it for a period of time, and then I just wouldn't.
But like someone would give it to you, right? I mean, they're not like expecting an 8-year-old.
Sure, yeah, they give it to me, but it's still my responsibility to take it.
And you wouldn't.
Yeah, not always.
That's crazy.
I tried many different kinds, but anyways,
when we met, I said, our love really helped me heal a lot of things. It wasn't totally like the end all be all. I had a lot of work to do, obviously. Like, bulimia just doesn't go away just because someone loves you and reminds you to love yourself. But I think for me, it was like a huge deal to have someone stable in my life, I guess. So, but for you, I felt like it was interesting because you felt like you were at a place in your life that you were finally happy and you wanted to start tapering off your medication. So you did successfully get off of it. But then like when you went to college was when we went back on it, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I tried it different times because I had a hard time in school. And so
And just being away from,
drinking too much, being away from home again, and, you know, I was not doing well in school. And so my parents suggested go, talk to someone, figure it out, get on medication, whatever. And so I did.
yeah.
And I think part of that was Adderall. Maybe that was my first time with Adderall. And
Was that when you were in college? It was the first time? Yeah,
I
that
think
makes
so.
sense. They prescribed.
I think so.
So I have super strong views on antidepressants, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm never going to tell anyone not to take them. I think that there's definitely a time and a place if someone feels that they need it. But I also have seen so many people in my life on them as just as a scapegoat, sometimes to not dealing with your shit. And so sometimes you just are in a place where I don't have the bandwidth to deal with this, or I'm in college, I don't really have the resources. I don't know. I mean, you obviously had the resources, but it just wasn't the right time.
Yeah, I think I didn't want to deal with anything, and I could blame something else for me not having motivation or drive to participate in the academics and just party.
Yeah.
And have a good time.
Eric was what is it called?
Student brand manager
For Red Bull.
For Red Bull, and so part of my job was to party.
Yeah.
And
so,
it was great. It was the life of the party. I'd bring a case of Red Bull, and everybody loved me.
So, anyways, Eric didn't do well in college. I didn't do well my first trimester, were we on trimester? Quarters. I didn't do well my first quarter, but my dad threatened that I didn't say this part. So Eric went off to Oregon State, and then my parents' divorce started getting gnarly, and I was like, I'm out. And I love being with Eric anyways. I wasn't just going to follow him to college. I figured we'd be together regardless, but I ended up going to the same college as Eric, and it was super fun. Sometimes I get frustrated that I went to Oregon State because I feel like I should have gone to NYU.
Better school.
but
I didn't make it to a better school, so.
And I love the people we met, and I love that experience that I had in such a remote town in Oregon. And so it was super fun. But for me, my dad basically was like, if you don't get good grades, you're coming back home. And I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going back home to be with them, because their stuff is just too much for me to handle. So I would stay up really late and study, and I did really well in school, and also kept up with Eric's partying.
Yeah. Yep. And Nikki put up to some degree with me, and stuck through my bullshit.
It's hard to be with someone in college, I think, when you drink a lot. I think that's always gonna have, when people drink a lot, they just have really unnecessary arguments.
Sure.
But I think I don't know. I don't even know. Ours were mainly about how I wanted Eric to get his shit together, and he didn't. So we had definitely a lot of moments like that. But for the most part, we both, I would say, had a knowing that we're meant to be together. So we weren't trying to change. I was never trying to change Eric. I just knew who he was, and I believed in him. And I just always wanted him to remember that. And I would say that Eric, definitely, there's been times in our life where he was that person for me. And that was really in high school when I was drinking a lot and stuff like that. He was the one that was there for me to remind me, hey, this isn't the way.
Don't do drugs, stay in school.
Yeah, exactly. And Eric has gone through a lot. So Eric's mom is an alcoholic. That's a big part of why his parents' marriage didn't work out. And she is an amazing woman. We love her, but she's definitely gone through a lot, and it's been really hard on Eric as well. And so seeing that with his mom and navigating that relationship, and every single one of his cousins, right? Every single one except for one. are heroin addicts on
No,
one
no,
side.
not necessarily heroin
Oh no,
addicts. Just, hard drugs and
hard
have had
drugs.
issues and
So and then one of them in particular overdosed and died from heroin. So that was like something that happened to him in high school. So it was a really, um,
impactful and
impactful
kind of pushed
experience.
me to not,
Go down that route.
yeah, I want that kind of thing in my life. And, I wanted to be with Nikki, but didn't want that aspect of it in my life.
What are you bringing me in there for? Because of drugs?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, not that I was doing that.
I'm saying you didn't only deal with me.
I know. Okay, so basically
I
the
dealt
moral
with
of the
you,
story is Eric dealt with me first, which is why
And
I
then
was
Nikki-
willing
Nikki
to
dealt
deal with
with-
Eric for so long, but his family doesn't know that. They just think that I'm an angel and dealt with him, so I always keep it that way.
Yeah, and she dealt with a lot more than I did.
I did.
For sure.
But I think that when you meet someone, I think both of us coming from families that have been divorced, we knew right away that we were just never gonna do that to ourselves or each other, and that means that you have to be really present in a relationship. So we were together for 10 years before we got married, obviously because we met each other when we were super young. It was 9 years actually. I was 25, I think, when we got married. So we were together though from like September of 2006 to we got married May of 2016. And it's because obviously we were going through college and all that. But I would say you really just have to be super present instead of just think, okay, I'm this age, I need to get married, I need to have a kid, I need to like do all these things and mark off this checklist because that's what I'm supposed to do. And I think that's really what leads to, in my opinion, what leads to divorce.
Sure. Yeah.
Not choosing the right partner because you want a certain life.
Right. Moving too quick or.
And so, I don't know. I also think that speaking of what?
When we were ready to get married and have a kid, we already understood and we had grown over a period of time. You learn what the other person wants and ideally your views and how you want to approach things kind of mesh together, and they need to be in line before you make those decisions in your life.
I know there's so many things like, okay, so Eric and I went to college. Then Eric was going to take like 7-8 years to graduate. So he went off before me. I graduated before him. We moved to Bend, Oregon. And I was like actually really mad at Eric at this point because I was so ready to start our life. And I was planning on moving to Santa Barbara with him. And he was supposed to work for Patagonia. This wasn't all in my head, by the way, because he never applied, but he was supposed to apply. And like I had this plan and he didn't actually tell me. Well, meanwhile, Eric went to the Amazon for 3 months and it was amazing for him because he needed to like kind of go and be in nature and realize that he didn't want his degree to be in business. And that's a lot of the reason why you were having trouble in school, I think, is because you weren't in learning something that you really wanted to learn.
Yeah.
So Eric came back, studied eco and adventure tourism.
Tourism and outdoor leadership.
Yeah. And so part of that was, so he knew that was going to be his major, but then he didn't tell me that it was actually going to take years for him to graduate from it. And so I was really pissed when he told me one day. And then I was like, okay, whatever, we're going to get through this. Like, I'll move to Oregon. I'll still stay in Oregon and I'll move to Bend with you. So we moved to Bend and it was so much fun, but we found a dog on Craigslist and both our parents were like, you guys can't get a dog until you're married. But at this point, we like kind of told them about her situation and she needed to be rescued. And so we rescued her with their support. And the moment I met her, I knew that everything was like meant for us to like get to that point. Like all the F ups that Eric did, like got us to the point where we got to Bend, Oregon, and we we rescued this dog that was meant to be part of our family and like help us expand and like give us responsibility and teach us how powerful love is, because she was like terrified, right?
Mhm.
Like, what was she like when we first got her?
Yeah, I think terrified and um, a little aggressive. We were her fifth home in her first year of life, and I don't think she ever was loved, and so she was reluctant to give love back. So she never went on walks with her previous owner, and so we'd take her on walks, and we'd stop for a water break, and she would be aggressive and want us to go on, jump on us and push us to go on more walks or a longer walk and keep going. And
Bite our arm.
yeah, and sleep in little corners in the room. And she was in bad shape emotionally.
And
And
I was like, kind of, Eric would go to work. He was like working and going to school. And at the time I just graduated. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And so I was home with her, and I was kind of afraid of being home alone with her. But slowly, like, I mean, we got to know each other, and we just like showed her just love, like consistently, like what
yeah, that we
consistent
weren't
love
going
is.
anywhere, and she couldn't do anything that was going to make us give up on her.
Yeah.
And now she's the sweetest, most incredible dog. She just needed love.
And she's like 9 years old now, which is crazy how long ago that was. So
I would
I
tell
think,
her too that, if she kept doing that, we were going to give her away.
no. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I wanted to share with you about natural wine. And I've been learning more and more about it lately because we've been working with a company called Primal Wine. And I absolutely love what I've learned with working with them, because they are really here to share with us the beautiful natural aspect of what wine really was intended to be. And I learned from them that conventional wine actually uses lab grown yeasts and synthetic antimicrobials, and even aerate their wine using gas injection at times. And I knew from that moment that I did not want to put that in my body. And what I also love about natural wine is the fact that they take into account cultural and philosophical methods when it comes to bringing us this beverage that really has respect for the environment. And it takes us back to the area where the grapes are grown. So I've been really excited because I signed up for Primal Wine's Wine Club, where they basically guide you along the way. They curate the natural wine, and you get to learn something new. So I wanted to share this with you guys because we've partnered with them, and we're offering free shipping when you sign up for their wine club. And it's a great way to do something for yourself or with a family member and really have some fun learning something new. So take the time, sign up, and tell us what you think. Use code the fullest at checkout and go to their website, primalwine.com. So yeah, we rescued Cessna, and at that point, like a year later, I knew that I needed to like move back to California and do stuff. We stayed together. I moved, and Eric finished college, and then we moved back down to Southern California because I went to culinary school, and I did some traveling solo as well because I felt like he had the opportunity to do that while I was in college, and we just kind of knew that we were going to spend the rest of our life together. So it's nice to have, it's nice, especially when you're young and with someone, it's nice to give yourself the opportunity to learn more about yourself and explore and grow by yourself, as well as together. So that was kind of always our thing, is we're never going to stop ourselves from learning and growing and being our own person, but we also love doing everything together, and that's just the way that we are. So yeah, that's kind of brought us to Eric graduating, moving back to California, and I lived near Cafe Gratitude in Venice, and so we would go there a lot, and somehow we ended up getting to know the family that started it.
We started doing workshops. We did when I graduated, moved down here. I was opening our pizza restaurants, and we went and did this sacred commerce workshop, as well as a No, something
sacred
else.
commerce and like leadership training.
Yeah. So we spent 10 days in an intimate group with Matthew and Teresi from the founders of Cafe Gratitude, and, got to know them and grow close with them, I guess.
And they were, other than like Eric's stepmom and dad, who were definitely a big example to us of what love looks like. Because I think like growing up with parents who didn't love each other, they at some point probably did, but they weren't in love with each other anymore. I think it's so important to have an example of a relationship that you look up to. So they were like a really big part of our knowing that love is real. And then when we met Matthew and Teresi, it was just kind of like, wow, look at them. Like they are such incredible people, and they model exactly what we value and what we see as real love. And so we really appreciated their approach to life. We loved that they brought that into their businesses, and that they saw just as because our view is that every relationship is a path to awakening within yourself and to get to know yourself on a deeper level and kind of like help each other grow. And so the fact that that was brought into a business is super inspiring to us, because we're, really entrepreneurial people, and our dads are entrepreneurs, and like that entrepreneur blood is like within us. And so to see them bring that into a business and then have a method to it was really cool. So we kind of like stuck with them. We learned from them, how can we bring this into our businesses? And then we got really close with them, and we did their Kindred Spirits workshop. I think we did that after we asked them to officiate our wedding.
Yeah.
So once Eric asked me, and we got engaged, we did a workshop called Kindred Spirits, and it's very similar to Sacred Commerce, but basically, what is it? Like a method, or what would you say?
Yeah.
There's like a form of communication as well.
Right.
So like they teach you, not that Kindred Spirits is a form of communication, but they teach you how to truly listen to each other. And I think that Eric and I always had, obviously a way of communicating with each other that wasn't like violent or anything. Like we always knew that to be patient with each other and to love each other through all of the like ups and downs that we've gone through. Obviously, like we weren't on and off and stuff. We were definitely like we had a strong relationship. But I think taking their workshop and really thinking about what type of communication works for our relationship is really important. And it's a really important thing to do with each other. And one thing that they said that I think applies to everyone is like when you go on a date or like when you go to meet someone, like cut the bullshit right away. Like remember when they said that? Mm-hmm. Like talk about real things that matter. I think communication, I read this somewhere actually, because I grew up with my mom telling me that communication is number one in a relationship. And I always believed that it was true because my parents had such a horrible time communicating with each other and getting across the fact that, hey, I love you, but this is what bothers me. I think that they just like were never able to say that to each other. And it's a big reason why they're continuing to be in the situation that they're in. Like, it's so sad to watch like just what people do when they don't feel valued. But
and I don't think we do it necessarily. We try.
No, yeah.
But I don't think, I've learned from my dad, and my dad learned from his dad. And I think every, hopefully truth learns from me, and I can make it better than it has been generationally. And every generation it's gotten better, but that's one of the things that we had to work on. And I think every relationship has to work on.
But it's funny because I think that even with that, I think that I read somewhere that, and I think this is so important, that respect is number one and communication is number two, because I think once you lose respect for someone, then you really don't have anything. Like whether that means that someone cheated on you or whether that means like someone did something that you just like truly lost respect for. And then so the way you treated them was probably going to become like condescending. And that like takes two people, right? Someone doing something and then you becoming condescending or vice versa. And I think that it takes a really long time to gain respect or trust. And I think that's something actually people really need to work on and work towards. And so I don't know, I really appreciated like meeting Matthew and Teresi. I mean, I fell in love with them. I love them so much and I want to have a farm like they do and I want to build a life that they have, but they taught us they created a framework of communicating with each other. That's the word I was thinking of. And they taught us how to really listen to each other and listen to what we're actually trying to say and teach us how to even communicate what we're actually trying to say. And if you're ever interested, I think that it's a really great thing to look into, whether you want to do it with a partner or just like learn on your own. I think these are things that everyone should learn, regardless of if you're in a relationship or not. And another thing that I really love learning about is like having appreciation for other people's love. Like if that's what you want to call into your life or, like I think calling out jealousy and like, I don't know, what do you have to say about jealousy? Because I think we know a lot of jealous people in our family.
Yeah. I think it ruins a lot of relationships.
Yeah.
It gets in in the way of stuff, and instead of just enjoying people and what they have and experiencing life together, you spend your time being jealous of that person, and so you lose the great times together.
And like it keeps you from being present because you're
that's what I'm
constantly
trying to
jealous
say.
of like, what does this person have that I don't have, or what this type of life that I'm definitely not jealous. I appreciate Matthew and Teresi's like life because that's not, but I think it could come from people could be like, oh my gosh, they have that and that's wrong, or I don't know, like, oh, they have a big business, whatever. You could just like call out all these things in people and have it not come from a place of love, or it could come from a place of love. And I think those are really important things to consider and notice, like if you're in a relationship with someone or if you're starting to date someone and they seem like they are jealous, like use that as a red flag. Like I think there's so many red flags, and I think people don't want to pay attention to red flags because they want to only see what they see, Anyways, so I think we were kind of getting into, Eric started talking about when you start dating someone or when you're getting married. Yeah, we were talking about divorces and why they happen and like how people kind of go into relationships not talking about their values and like things that are actually important to them. And I think that's really major. Our values.
I think Matthew and Teresi said they had a couple or something that they moved in together and they got married or moved in together or whatever it was, and she didn't like the way he folded the towels in their bathroom, and I'm sure it was a lot more than that, but that one thing set them off, and
it came through in like a workshop.
From the workshop we did. And so discussing everything before and kind of other aspects of your life and what you care about. And so now I tell Nikki, fold the towels this way or else.
Literally, like I used to be the person that did the laundry. I was psycho. I mean,
she hasn't touched the laundry in years.
I know. Okay, so I didn't even talk about this. Like, I mean, I don't know if you've listened to the Fullest or read anything. Like, you probably know I used to be crazy into like being vegan and then trying to make Eric do all sorts of things. I've made him do a colonic cleanse before. Like, I've made him do so many things, and he's so nice.
I
and
ate
like
a cheeseburger once. Nikki started crying.
I cried to my eyebrow lady And she reminded me that I
Oregon.
was just bawling because Eric went out and ate a cheeseburger one day. And I was like,
At least I was honest.
I don't know if I can be with someone who eats cheeseburgers.
I had a
it's
cheeseburger
so
2 days
bad.
ago.
Okay, he went to, what's that place? It was like a Tuesday. It was like
Tuesdays, TGI Fridays or something.
Ruby Tuesday.
Ruby Tuesday.
Oh my God. We lived in Corvallis, Oregon. So literally you had like no options. And I went to Portland and then I like
Bacon
called him and I was
cheeseburger.
like, hey, what are you up to? And he's like, oh, I went to lunch with some friends. And I was like, cool, where'd you go? And he's like, Ruby Tuesday. And I was like, what did you get? And he was like, a cheeseburger. And I was so mortified. Anyway, so like obviously we brought a lot of stuff to our relationship. He had his like party, like failing school stuff, and I had my like really intense like I would be like sitting in class in college and like thinking about the fact that I didn't make my bed and how I need to like run home and make my bed or else I wouldn't have been able to like focus all day long. Like I was really type A and I had to run every day if we went on vacation and I didn't
She
run.
would make the bed with me still in it.
Like literally so psycho. And so I don't even remember where we were going with this. Oh yeah. So anyways, I used to do the laundry all the
Now,
time.
which I've noticed the last couple of days, you make the bed after I'm already out of it, but you only make your side.
I know. Well, no, I don't do that on purpose. I just now that we have a kid, like the
He only
tables
has
have
time
turned.
for half the bed.
Eric like does all the dishes and he does all the laundry and now he has a specific way of doing the dishes and laundry. So like if I do it, he gets really upset. So it's actually really funny. I mean, not like mad, but you know, he's very particular. And so, yeah, I think like what you were saying about that couple and how he had she had a way of doing towels or
One of the two.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that those are really funny things to notice, you know, whether you live together before you get married or not. But then it goes like as deep as being like, this is how I want to parent. And these are things that people don't think about at all. Even like having kids to begin with, you know? I mean, I'm pretty sure people talk about that probably before they get married. But
Yeah, but how, even now, we have this, not issue, because it's not an issue, but you're way more well-versed in parenting techniques. And, you know, you have a certain way of doing things that I don't do just because I haven't learned it yet. But I'm on board because I trust you and your instincts as a mom. And
yeah, Eric's super nice and supportive, which is awesome because
I get corrected a lot for the way I say something or do something. But
Yeah.
that's okay because I know that Nikki and I both have
an agreement.
the same goals
Yeah,
for
yeah.
how we want to raise our son and who we want him to be. And I know Nikki, she's done a lot more research on it. And so I trust her opinion, which is,
I think it's,
I have my opinions about the way I want him to
Yeah.
do certain things. And I think she lets me have that as well.
yeah, I think it's important that, like for me, if you're the type of person that is really particular, then you should talk to the person you're about to marry about all this. And it's stuff that people don't talk about because before you have a kid, you don't think about, you know, or maybe you do, like you might go to a restaurant and see kids on screens all day or all evening and then think, like we had that experience where we were at a really nice restaurant and we like the
high-end
parents
restaurant, and these kids were sitting with like
iPads.
high-end Beats by Dre.
Yeah, they just like the parents were like, okay, they just sat them
12-inch
down.
iPads.
Yeah, gave them their technology and they were quiet the entire time. And it worked
Which
for
is
them.
great. It worked for them.
It worked for
And
them.
it was nice because our dinner was quiet. But
Yeah.
we'd rather have those kids run around having a good time
Yeah.
than sit at these kids staring
Or
at
like, why
screens.
do you need to go to Ritz-Carlton or what? I don't know where it was. Like with your, 5-year-old, like just
Yeah.
stay home and hang out with them or have someone. I don't know, whatever. If like you're that type of person, but
But
knew.
we agreed on it.
Yeah, we agreed on like not wanting to have our kids have screen time. But for me, because I think for me, it's super easy. It's way easier to just not have it in the house. So we just don't have a TV because
Nikki
I
got
don't.
rid of my TV.
Yeah, I got rid of Eric's TV And okay, so I got rid of Eric's TV because what happened was when he moved down from Oregon and he moved in with me again. And so like I didn't have a TV. So I had control over the fact that like we didn't have a TV and I loved it. But then when we moved back to Laguna to be closer to family, Eric convinced me that he needs a TV. And so like for a few years we had a TV and like I look back because I think that it really impacted even like it was during the elections and it had a lot of impact on me because I was super fearful at being a minority and being, you know, coming from a family who's Muslim. I not practicing Muslim, but from a Muslim
Well, your
country.
grandparents were practicing.
I legit thought that I was going to be put in a concentration camp because I like because that's what the media told me essentially about Trump. And so I was so scared when Trump didn't win and I was
When
like
Trump
curled up
won.
in oh no, yeah, when Trump won. And so I was curled up in a ball crying to Eric that like you know, I don't know how our future would look like if like I was put away in
We're
a camp.
still here today. Guys.
Exactly. Anyways, I got rid of the TV. My fear subsided. Like I don't have
Life
that.
went on.
Yeah, life went on and like but anyways, I convinced Eric not because of that situation, but I convinced Eric that like if we're going to be parents and we don't want our children to be on screens, then it has to start with us. And so we got rid of our TV and I was always on my phone and so like I switched to my phone and that's really helped with like not being on social media a lot at all really. And so we agreed that we should lead by example. That's like one thing. But also just like other things that you need to talk about, like vaccines and like schooling and all sorts of things I think are important to discuss.
Circumcising is,
Circumcising, yeah.
you know, a huge one.
Yeah. So we are,
But we address those things together.
yeah.
And discuss them. And
So we were pretty lucky to have like formed those opinions before we even got engaged.
yeah.
So I think that those are things people should like talk about and hopefully you're on the same page because it's hard when you're not. And I don't think that it's an end all be all if you're not, but I think that it makes life difficult because I know a lot of people that, you know, that are really sad about those things, or maybe now they're looking into getting a divorce and then the other parent is, you know, saying that they're not an adequate parent because they don't believe in certain things. And so I think it's important to be on the same page to prevent and have Eric and I have gone through like such gnarly divorces with our parents that we know you can't trust anyone. And like it's a really horrible way of like looking at life, but I don't think we look at it in like a bad way or a fearful way. I think it's just a taking precaution type of like perspective, right? Like we were just talking about that even with employees. You know, I think being really like just doing things by the book, even when it's like your best friend or whatever, because I think that you just have to have things super clear. And like I've learned that from my dad's mistakes.
Yeah, it's not necessarily trust. It's just having things clear.
Yeah, that doesn't have to do with trust. But I think it kind of does in a weird way because I think when you really trust someone, you kind of let your guard down.
Right.
I don't know. It's like hard. I don't know. What do you guys think? So a friend of ours is here, a really good friend of ours, and he was saying how like sometimes when you like kind of not in a bad way let your guard down, but you maybe become passive about certain things because you're like, oh, that's fine. Oh, that's fine. And like someone
people
might
take advantage of you and
and
maybe
little by
they
little
don't know that they are, but
yeah.
But they are.
And it's also your fault because you didn't say, hey, that doesn't make me feel good, or that kind of makes me feel like this. I've even had a relationship with like good friends that like I leave feeling like I don't really want to hang out with this person because they always make me feel bad about myself.
Yeah.
And so I've like told Eric, like, I actually
So
don't
now
want to
we
be
don't.
friends with this person anymore. And like, we haven't hung out with that person.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I had just addressed it like head on and been like, that's not nice, you guys, like maybe we still would be friends, but I was super passive, I guess, about that situation.
Let's move on from them.
It can happen with employees where they might be like, I mean, this is actually happening with a really good friend of mine who people listening to this podcast probably would even know her company, but like her employees were essentially like, oh, you made a lot of money this weekend off of this item and you did a special and you made this much money. And so they got together and they said, we deserve a cut of that because you made X amount of money. And she's like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't even
I don't
pay
even
myself.
I don't even get a
Like,
paycheck.
you were lucky. You are lucky we made this much money so that I can make
Afford
your
to pay
paycheck.
the bills and keep the business going. And
But
yeah, and
people don't see that. But I would say it can
overall
go the other
picture.
way. Like, I think a lot of times if you hire employees that maybe are more affluent or come from families who are affluent that don't need to make like crazy amount of money, then you could be like, oh, whatever, they're fine. They don't need it. Their family has money. They are whatever white and do, you know what I mean? It's like, I guess it could totally go both ways. And I always think about that too, because I think that like it's easier to not feel bad about someone when they don't have a family to pay for, you know? And so you really have to just put things in perspective and say, you know, this person is working this much and regardless of their background, like this is what they should get, or this is what their position should be getting paid. And I think a lot of times, like, especially for me, it's been a learning experience. It's like, just because I love this person, like it doesn't do them any good if I overpay them for their position.
Absolutely.
It harms my company. It harms their future if they want to leave and they can't get a career somewhere else at that paying rate.
Yeah,
and
that happened with, I overpaid friends that worked for us at our restaurants, and they haven't been able to go on and make the same amount of money or have the same type of career.
And it's detrimental to them. And so when you think, I think the moral of the story is like, you think you're being nice, but really you're hurting both yourself and the other person. And so I think at the end of the day, just like remembering to do things, I don't like doing things by the book at all. And I don't like following rules at all, but like doing things that, you know, are recommended.
No, the following rules thing is more of not following rules. Going by the book is more of you got to cover your ass too.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the end, it's you that you got to look out for.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And me, in our case, you and me.
Yeah, us, whatever, your unit.
And your family.
Your
yeah.
family,
if you have a family, it's your family unit. Like for Eric and I, just like our families, you know, and having a crazy family dynamic, I think we realized early on, like when we met. And I think that's really like why we wanted to do this episode is like, I think immediately when we met, we realized we're a unit and we're each other's family. And then like, we didn't obviously bring our family second. It really happened when we became married. But I think that's how we lived our life, was that like,
I think and a big turning point for me in that regard is when we had our son Truth, or we were about to have Truth was about to be born, and my mom was going through a hard time and relapsed. And at some point I had to tell her, I've got my family. I love you and I've supported you this whole time and let you do it over and over again. But I'm not going to do that anymore because I'm got my family that I'm starting and I need to look out for us. And that's my number one responsibility. And I have to focus my energy and love on that. And that helped her, I think, grow. And
yeah, she appreciated that you said that now.
and wanted to. Said, okay, I got to figure it out on my own, and he's got his family to take care of, and so I gotta do this. And it's not that I didn't continue to support her in some degree.
Yeah, you like sent her good. It wasn't like Eric's like, you're cut and I hate you. Yeah.
But it was like, I'm gonna focus on my family, and if you want to be a part of it, you got to get your shit together. Now she's better than ever, and
yeah, that's actually really good to like. I mean, I knew that you did that, and we always kind of talk about that. We just talked about it with her, how she appreciated it. But right now I'm going through a lot of stuff with my mom, and I think like I approached it in like the bad way. I think I was like, you're cut, versus I should have been like, I don't agree with what you're doing. I still love you, but I don't agree with what you're doing, and like we're not going to continue this until you figure it out. But I just don't like want to say that.
Yeah, there's
to
a
her.
fine line. There's also
I think
you can't have that energy and that type of person around your family because we're growing our family and our son is being shaped into who he is, and being around that kind of energy and the way a person acts shapes them at a very young age. And so you need to just say, look, I got to worry about us, and
you're not part of us.
You're not a part of us if you're going to be like this.
Yeah. So anyways, thanks for coming on to this episode, Eric. I love you so much.
I love you too.
And thanks for listening, you guys. It was really fun to have my husband on. And if you end up having any questions or
if you have any questions about our perfect relationship, feel free to reach out to me.
Or email. Yeah, email Eric. I'm going to tell everyone your
Eric
email
at
address.
wearewonderwater.com.
Yeah. Just email Eric and ask him questions.
On IG at Bearcraft. All my social media. I actually don't have social
even
media
go on
anymore,
social media. Because I got mad at him for looking at a bunch of boats and stuff and wasting time.
I was wasting time.
I know, cars and boats. And I was
airplanes.
like, I know. It's just such a waste.
I've got a lot more time. I've been reading.
Yeah, he
I'm
loves
now
it,
educating
actually.
myself on raising children and what I want.
Yeah, so it's awesome.
There's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothes.
Okay, love you.